Trump got questioned about whether TikTok should stay, and he really kind of him-hawed it, almost like he was deflecting. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. If Trump's
Yeah.
deflecting, this is not good, which clearly that has now since changed. Or maybe we didn't get the full interview and they chopped it up and they presented it the way they wanted to. But this is officially the first podcast of 2025 and also the last. Just wanted to see your reaction when I said
I was trying to create, I was like, the last? How is that? It makes sense 2024, 2025.
No, I'm just messing with you. So this is episode 172, and I want to go ahead and give the quick shout out to Brian Quinlan, who texted me last week or the week before and said, there hasn't been an updated podcast in a while.
We're slacking.
Brian, here we are. The day it's December the 30th today at the time of this recording. So it'll be the new year. So happy new year to you and our other 4 listeners. And we're back. I can't promise we'll always remain this consistent. We've got a lot going on, but we are going to Tristan repurpose some of the coaching calls as podcasts. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it'd be kind of nice. Some of the social genius ones that we do, we're going to repurpose them, kind of like the Gary V Live. So people like to tune in and listen in. We thought let's make that open for people as a recording. So obviously you won't be participating in those live if you're not part of the group coaching, but you'll be able to see what we're talking about, which is great. And Jeff has a really cool Top Gun cup that I hadn't even seen. That was really good. Talk to
Even
me.
cooler.
Dude, that's a really good one.
Yeah. Huh? Christmas gift.
I like that. That is a really cool cup.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I want to go over some things that we're doing for the beginning of the new year. Some things that we're transitioning into or testing out for our
Yep.
socials. But first, I want to talk about Trump. I want to talk about how he just filed an amicus brief, and he's a party that.
Can we hold on? Can we stop right there real quick?
Yeah.
For the nerds out there, because I asked this question offline, what the hell an amicus? First of all, when I look at it, I want to pronounce it amicus. I'm
Yeah,
glad I didn't, because you would have made fun of me had I done that.
that's all right.
And like I did with Aneem, if you remember
Oh,
that one.
that was good too. I do remember that. That was good. That
All
was
right.
good.
So can you explain what an amicus brief
Yeah,
is?
it just means it's a term, word for word, it would mean like a friend of the court. And in this case, it's a legal document filed by a person, in this case, a person, but it could be an organization too, like the Department of Justice, that has or isn't a party to the cause of the case. And in this case, it's Trump. So he's like not directly connected to this, but he has interest. And I think that's the key. In all amicus briefs, there are the party or the organization that's filing it has interest. And in this case, he does because he doesn't want it to go away. He keeps on saying every time he talks, he's like, hey, there's a big part of the younger people, the younger demographic that voted for me. So I have a soft place for TikTok in my heart. I'm like, that's a great one, dude. Yeah, I don't want TikTok to go away. It's a massive, great platform. And so what you typically see is, and I haven't read the amicus brief, but I heard it was like a page or two, very short. It typically goes something like, hey, this is why you shouldn't, or this is why you should, right? Usually goes against whatever is being filed. And in this case, the Department of Justice wants to close out TikTok. And Trump's saying, hey, don't close it. It's got benefit. It might even be good for other social platforms because they need competition. Plus, I go into office literally the next day or 2 days later. So it doesn't make sense because um, we should let the new organization coming in, which is us and my crew, Trump, right? Take a look at it before we dissolve it or do something with it. Anyway, that's what it is in this case. And typically there is some weight to it. So the only example I have, the recent example that I have is when the Department of Justice stepped in and filed an amicus brief on a case. I believe it was the PIN case, the MLS PIN case up north. I think it was that one where they stepped in and said, "Hey, no, no, we don't agree. Here are the things that you need to watch out for." And it's important because they could come back and say, "Well, you know what? We filed an amicus brief. Now you should have listened to us. Now we're going to reopen this whole thing and create a problem." And it's kind of like anticipatory too. Like, what happens next? Do you want to really go that legal route, the whole process? No, the answer is no. So my feeling is I know both sides hate each other right now, right? Like you've got the Democrats hate the Republicans in office, and they're making everything really difficult. So I don't know what happens, dude. I'd like for them to hold off on closing it. It has a lot of value. Like I've seen the value. What do you think happens?
Well, I just perused the PDF of this, and it's 19 pages. Well, it's more than
Holy
19 pages,
crap.
but it's actually 18 pages of text. And actually it seems like a fairly easy read. So in if we can put this in the show notes, so anybody who's kind of wants to nerd out on this thing, I guarantee Tristan's going to read this word for word. I might even actually, but yeah, I think my primitive and uneducated opinion is that this is a good sign for TikTok in one light. The fact that Trump is standing up is a good sign. I think that that probably means there's a pretty good chance this thing, at the very least, gets kicked, right? Um, but
Yeah.
but there's the other side of me that says his basis for this, which from what I've read, is that well, TikTok did me, a favor in the election, is not a good basis because the 49%, which maybe that's, the other side is going to be like, F you. That's more reason why it should go away, because if it wasn't for TikTok, you wouldn't be president. You know what I mean? There's going to be that thought process.
Damn it. That's a good one, dude. I didn't think of that. That makes
So
sense.
yeah,
Anyway.
I think, but I am glad because I sent you a video a few weeks ago. I've been watching this stuff on TikTok, ironically, because that's where the best news is. And I felt like Trump got questioned about whether TikTok should stay, and he really kind of him-hawed it, and kind of almost like he was deflecting. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. If Trump's
Yeah.
deflecting, this is not good, which clearly that has now since changed, or maybe we didn't get the full interview and they chopped it up and they presented it the way they wanted to. But yeah, I think this is a good sign for TikTok. So for those of you sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens, I would continue. I wouldn't, if you're already all in on TikTok, don't stop what you're doing, just prepare. And if you're not all in on TikTok, don't go all in until you know that it's going to stick around. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, just do what you're doing. If you're not on it, don't be on it. If you're on it, keep going. I agree. I agree. All right. Let's transition into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to what you're doing, man. Let's pick one platform only,
Okay. Okay.
and then tell me what your plans are and what your vision is. And it doesn't have to be for the whole year, just for like the next few steps.
Yeah. Well, I did do some preparation on really, I guess I would consider two, obviously we've got multiple businesses, but really ultimately I break this down into two categories. It's my personal, which is, my personal Instagram, which I've really started to take my own advice and niche it down, much to my own personal dismay. And I think this is a good conversation for those of you listening to this, is that, I always practice what I preached, which is throw shit up against a wall and see what sticks. And I kind of enjoy that. I kind of enjoy documenting my life. The problem with doing that is that I confuse the algorithm.
Mm,
And I've
mm.
I've done a really good job of confusing the algorithm on my personal. On my Lake of the Ozarks, I think on the opposite, I've done an incredible
It's
job of
yeah, it's the
niching
opposite
it, right?
there. Yeah.
But on my personal, so I've really started to focus on what I feel like my niche is. And I feel like my niche is my audience is real estate agents, mortgage professionals, and business owners, primarily the first two. And so I just need to embrace that and give them what I think they're for, which is my take on social. And it's my advice, it's what I'm doing, it's it's content tips, it's actual content like CapCut templates. And so I've built my own cadence, which I have not done. I'll probably sprinkle in my family every once in a while, but I'm really trying to go to where it's all niched into that category of social, and then my personal stuff will just be on my stories. And so here's my cadence, and this is what I built for myself. I want to do one remix a week.
Okay.
And that's going to be my style of remix. So I don't use the remix button. I do it where it's a little bubble and I'm reacting to it just because I think
Look
it's different,
down.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Or somewhere on the screen, right? I'm going to
Yep.
do one or two CapCut style template videos. They just perform incredibly well. So I might as well
Okay.
stick with them. People love them. I'm going to do a repurpose of a tutorial webinar. So that's like a tip, a social tip. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do one that is very specific to Lake of the Ozarks because I want to continue to remind that audience that I'm the guy at the lake. So when they have referrals, right?
Okay.
I just need
Okay.
to
I like that.
keep in their
And
head
this is on your Instagram personal.
personal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. All right.
And then one promo video a week promoting my social management services.
And how many is that in your feed typically?
It's five or six posts a week, 5 or 6 reels a week.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
And then stories, whatever happens, right?
Stories, whatever happens. Yeah.
I like that.
My goal is usually, 4 to 8 a day. Um, if I
That's
go to a
pretty good.
concert, it might be 15, right? If I have a busy day, it might be 2, but I won't ever miss a day. And I think that's something that everybody should try to stick with.
I watched your Justin Timberlake one. That was really good. You
People
did a
love
very
that.
you did a very
People,
good job
thank
on
you.
showcasing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like trying to give people a little taste of you know, of the concert,
Yeah.
Which honestly, if I could go to a concert and summarize the concert into just my favorite songs, that's what I would do. So it's kind of the way that's why I try to portray it basically.
I like that, dude.
Yeah. So that's my personal. And so for me, this is hard. Mentally, this is hard. And the advice I would give to somebody listening to this is don't necessarily take mine or Tristan's advice as something that you should emulate because you may not be at the same place in the journey.
Yeah.
For me, this is a long time coming. Like I really should kick myself in the ass, just like I did with Lake of the Ozarks, and be like, why didn't I do this sooner? And it's partially just because I enjoy creating content, but I need to just dial in on what I feel like most people are there for. And really, it is from the analytics. I can tell by watching what people most engage with and what people most share. And it's typically real estate agents engaging with real estate meme, funny, CapCut stuff. That's how I pull them in. And then I sell them something, right? Afterwards. But I feel like I've earned that right. And so that's why I'm just going all in on that.
I like that. All right. Very, dude, I like that a lot. Very simple, concise, and I
Yeah,
think that's something you can stick with really long term.
I hope so.
All
Planning
right.
to.
That's on Instagram.
That's on Instagram, yeah.
All right.
Which also feeds to Facebook, obviously.
Yeah, well, you're killing two birds with one stone there.
Right.
All right, for me, I picked YouTube and specifically YouTube long form because my YouTube long form in the last, well, when I pay attention to it, so the last 4 months have done really well. And when I look at the two things that perform, it's videos that are news related, real estate news related, those perform really well. Uh, and then secondly, having to do with what we should do as real estate agents, like prospecting, new
Mhm.
tech, AI, whatever it is. Those don't perform as high. I don't get like thousands of views. I only get maybe sometimes I break 1,000 views, so not as many. But I
Mhm.
like the consistency of both. It allows me to put out more because news happens daily, right?
Mhm.
Now, there's also another YouTube channel I just started for the consumer. with real estate news, just like literally what I look at in the morning, which is those, you see those short videos I do about news all the time. That's for me, that's for the consumer. So in the morning, I take about 30 to 45 minutes to go through news, pick the news I want to talk about. And what I've noticed is I do it now so often that now I can make a video in about 10 minutes. It'll be like an 8-minute video. Just by reading the news consistently, I can go back and say, oh shit, that connects to this, to this, to this. So it's so much easier to ad lib just by reading a quick article and being like, okay, here we go. And then now it's becoming so much easier to make 3 videos a week, long form. And long form for me, it's not like 40 minutes. Long form is 5 to 8 minutes. So not
Mhm.
even super long.
Mhm.
And so I'm sticking with it. And so far it's been really good. And I get really good views on the news ones, man. And
So for context, what is the channel, the first channel, not the new one, the first
my
channel,
first channel is my main one. So which
which
is
is
the
called
Tristan.
what?
It's just Tristan Almada.
Okay, and that is how many has how many subs?
I have 15,200.
Okay. I want to just give that for context. And then the second one you started.
Which is it's just Tristan and Associates. That's for the
So
consumer directly.
so what is your or do you have a specific cadence for
Yeah.
each one?
For both, it's 3 videos a week.
Three longs.
3 longs. So here's what I found. And for me, I have a I have an advantage, and that's my email list. Because I also have a massive email list for consumers because we've been getting online leads forever. So we've noticed that when we started blasting it about a month ago to directly to the consumer's watching and they're commenting. Like these are not agents. This is just people that I've never been able to capture, never worked with, and some that I have. And so now our little channel is growing with consumer-based content. And for me, that's money right there, right? That's like the biggest money.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, well, shit, I'm just gonna make consumer videos because I do it all the time,
Yeah.
and then news for real estate agents because
Mhm.
it falls only because it falls within the same world. If it was different, I'd be like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, because arguably the consumer facing content is also agent facing content in the sense that they need to be taking it and either using it, saving it, or sharing it, or emulating it. And
Yeah,
this is where
because
it's
it's like,
easy.
dude, look, the news we get, we
Mm,
could turn it around and say, hey, consumer, now what did I do yesterday that I haven't posted? Um, Listings inventory is up 12% year over year. That could go for agents and the consumer, right? So
yeah.
we just have to break it down and being like, look, it's not equal everywhere. City by city, it's different. Just watch out because if one area has a lot of inventory, that means prices may come down or stale out long term.
Yeah.
5-minute video, done.
This is where we are different. For most people listening, you have zero desire to attract the agent as your avatar. And so I say that because I want you to take it all with a grain of salt, but understand that you also notice what you and I, and this wasn't planned, the basis behind our plans all are based upon the avatar, the audience.
Yeah,
And I think most people's biggest mistake with social is it's all about them. What am I going to gain from this? And this is why you never gain any traction on social. And you need to really, truly do more in-depth exploration
true.
of the consumer and what the consumer is interested in. Um, and I don't know, man. It's like as we talk about this and hopefully inspire some people, you have to figure out where you're at in the journey. And Tristan and I share these things because of where we are at in our journeys. And for some of you, you really do need to start at square one. You need to not try to
Yeah,
jump ahead to where we are because you won't go anywhere. Um,
correct.
you also need to be patient with it. My question to you or challenge to you is I feel like your YouTube journey, and that I'm talking about the OG channel with all the subs, has been inconsistent.
Oh,
Am
100%.
I right? Okay.
Yeah,
And you
man.
know,
I look at it and I'm like, fuck. I tried 1 month and I made $1,600. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
yeah.
Like, why don't I just go all in?
Well,
I
and
could probably make 10K.
you did this during COVID, if I'm not mistaken. Like
I
you
did.
got really hardcore consistent over the summer and you were banging them out, doing lives. But I feel like for you, and maybe this is something you've identified or self-identified, because now I'm realizing it as we're talking, when there's really big news in our industry, you really capitalize on it. But when it's relatively
Do.
quiet, you also go quiet.
I do, man. And
So
it's because,
how do you find a way to not let that happen?
all right, so I noticed that a lot because I got through August and March when we got the NAR things, we were getting like 25,000 views on our videos, which is crazy, okay, for my videos. And then nothing was happening in between. So I went back and I'm like, what can we do to just stay consistent on little news and then capitalize again on the big news when it happens?
Yeah.
So I just had to be okay with also talking about not as amazing news, only for
Not things
my
performing
benefit.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, only for my benefit. Because if I look at it's not performing, it pisses me off. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
only
It paralyzes
600
you.
views? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for
This
me,
is,
I'm thinking only 600 views
yeah.
versus 7,000, 8,000. Is it even worth it? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah. That's why this is such a great conversation because even we go through this and it's why you always hear me say to the person listening to this, to the people that are students that are in Drunk on Social and whatnot, is I know what the experts are saying, study the analytics. But I have a problem with that. And even though they're right to a degree, they're right because it's right for someone that gets to that level. And most of you haven't left level one. And then you study analytics because you're told to, because you're doing your homework, and then it paralyzes you because you're dejected because you've posted 10 videos and they've all flopped, and then you quit. And this is why I'm just an advocate to tell people like, hey, I think you should spend a year with your head down, with your blinders on, and you get that cadence down first. Once you've got that, it goes back to the rule of thumb about YouTube, which is I ran with that when you told me that. Daryl Eves, right?
Yeah, Daryl D.
Post a
Daryl.
hundred YouTube videos, then look at the analytics. That I believe that should be the case for every single platform. Post 100 videos, then worry about the analytics. Yes, you're going to see the analytics as you go along, but don't worry about it. If
Yeah.
something performs, cool, maybe, compound it. But other than that, don't let it deject you because, dude, man, you and I both, you're speaking the same language. I can go through my channels and be like, dud, 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 dud. Go, good
Yeah,
one. Dud, dud, dud. Oh, good one.
that's
It's just
so
the way
true.
it is.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
That's a good point, dude. I love it. This is a good
hopefully
talk.
that's
We
hopefully
should
that's inspirational for people.
we should do this on our next one. We should pick another channel that we're trying to work on and just expand on
Definitely.
what we're trying to do there.
Unless there's really big news, which there will be. I think we're going to continue to talk about TikTok for the next couple of weeks, assuming we record. And then after that, hopefully we won't have to talk about TikTok anymore. And hopefully for the reasons that it's staying. And if it doesn't, you know what? I'm at peace with it. I'm ready to. I'll move on, and and I know you will. And it's a bigger impact to me, I think, than most. But I'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, you've done a good job diversifying, so I like
Yeah,
it.
it's gonna be fun, man. Well,
I love it.
I'm gonna hang up from here and go batch create a bunch of content.
Me too. Have a good day, buddy.
You too, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.